down here, you can see the old ruins of the tramway. Look at how beautiful this mountain range is now. There's this bucket hanging from this cord. It used to have a top on it. Now look around. It's just preposterously steep. No way you're getting out. How the hell did they get this here? So the bucket sort of came in on cables from there, you know, got dumped into these chutes, and there could have been trucks underneath to ore into and go out of here. Pretty awesome that it's still standing as well.
All right, so in this video, we are going to hike an aerial tramway. And aerial tramways are among my favorite things in the world. You know, they're just such feats of engineering, you know, especially in the mining world. You know, back in the day, they used to have to take ore up and down all these switchback roads with mules to these crazy locations where the mine was. And then one day, you know, over 100 years ago, a guy was like, you know what? Let's take it from here down to where we're going, but forget the road. Let's go just on top of the mountain. And that's insane. You know, it's just incredible where they have to put these structures. You know, there's timbers on the side of shale cliffs that I have no idea how they got there. You know, I understand now why people say, oh, aliens built the pyramids, because some of these tramways don't make sense. You know, even in 2023, understanding the technology that we do now, I still do not know how they built some of these aerial tramways. You know, and me, I'm always one that I want to experience the history. You know, it's one thing reading about it in the books, but I think what brings history to life is going out and experiencing it a little bit yourself. So I hiked the aerial tramway here at Cerro Gordo. You know, that thing took me pretty much all day. It cost me a pair of boots, cost me a bunch of calories, I'm sure, but it brought me just such a greater appreciation for what the men did here back in the town's heyday. And then shortly after that, I decided, hey, you know, these tramways are something cool. I'm gonna hike the Salt Tram. And the Salt Tram is a tramway that's a few miles from here where they were taking salt out of Saline Valley, which is in Death Valley National Park, up and over this mountain ridge and into Owens Valley over the course of a 14-mile tramway. And this is the one that pretty much cemented to me that tramways are from aliens, because this tram is just built on the side of the steepest cliffs you'll ever see. You know, just to hike down it pretty much almost cost me my life. It was the most difficult day of my life just trying to follow it. And I was even going up to all these stations that we're at. Over the last couple months, you know, it's been very snowy here. It's been very cloudy here. And so I've been looking for a reason to hike. As the day opened up, there's a tramway right in my backyard that I've never hiked. You know, it never seemed that substantial in nature, but at the end of the day, every tramway is substantial in nature. And it originates at a mine called the Morningstar Mine. And the Morningstar has always been associated with Cerro Gordo. You know, it's a mine that started in the 1800s. It was mined into the 1930s. It's a mine where they primarily were searching for gold over the lead and silver that they're mining here. Not to say that they didn't get the lead and silver over there as well. But this tramway is one that I've seen many, many times. You know, it intersects the main Cerro Gordo road about halfway down. And so I decided, you know what? This is as good as time of any. Let's go take a hike.
All right, so we're over here at the Morningstar, about to start this hike. The sun's just about to come over that mountain range, and then behind me should just become a brilliant pink. So I think it's a great time today to do it. But down here, you can see the old ruins of the tramway, and then the cable, the first tripod looking thing there. And way down there, that turn you can see, that's by the Estelle. That's where this tramway terminated, so that's where we're gonna stop today. What a time of day to start this hike. Look at how beautiful this mountain range is now. So you can see this is kind of where it all began. I love seeing the sunlight hit the top of the Sierras and then just race down as time goes on. So right now those pink clouds above, you know, Mount Whitney, it's just so beautiful. I've wanted to hike for a long time, needed a hike almost. So this is gonna be perfect. All right, we're at number one, and look at this bucket. There's this bucket hanging from this cord. It used to have a top on it. And it's attached to this cord, and this cord seems to have been gone up there. So I wonder if this is for like relaying things from the main mine down to this first tram stop. You know, they couldn't bring something down there to send it down and then this would get caught, and that's kind of their little telegraph system. This is it, you know, so this is a smaller, lighter weight tramway than the Cerro Gordo tramway, and definitely lighter weight than the salt tramway, but still exceptionally cool nonetheless. All right, so we're at the fourth kind of station now. And what's interesting is you can see another bucket up there on the lower one. So they were definitely putting buckets around these to send things to tower. You know, I've never seen that before ever, but it's so cool. I'm gonna try to climb up there to show you what that bucket looks like. But you can tell that they were putting that on there and just sliding across the wire, down and down. All right, we're up here in this bucket that was hanging from the wire. There's so many bullet holes through it that this could have been something that guys came out later and used as moving target practice as they sent it down the wire. But if you were to look inside, there's still an old paintbrush and grease. You know, so this was being used to grease these wheels. So whether this was sitting here and people added on later, or somebody back in the day sent grease down to their friends and later some holes got shot in it, I don't know. But that's kind of inventive, you know, if they were using this to send it from tower to tower, that would have been pretty cool. So, stunning views and a hanging bucket. Every single thing in the world has history. You know, and that seems very basic, but when you really think about it, it's kind of exciting. Like this pot, it has the history of where the metal came from. It has the history of who made it, where it was made, you know, how it got transported out here into these mountains. Then it had its history as being used as kind of a grease bucket, you know, like who was greasing these, you know, cables for the tramway? When were they doing that? How are they doing that? Then it had its history as, you know, target practice. And like, you know, that has a history of who was shooting it, what bullets were going through it, all that type of stuff. And now it kind of has that blended history where I imagine if you really wanted to, you could spend your entire life just making the history of this single bucket hanging from this single tramway line. You know, if you really wanted to get every single bit about this bucket, which is exciting, which I think means if you are interested in that history or history period, it doesn't have to be a grand thing. You know, if you have passion about figuring out exactly where this bucket was from and why it's here, then somebody's gonna be interested in that because it's gonna humanize it. It's gonna lead you down rabbit holes. I'm sure somebody somewhere that was related to something related to this bucket, whether it was manufacturing, transportation, shooting it, using it here, was somebody that you know, in some way. And that kind of rabbit hole nature of history is what just gets me so excited.
And you have to imagine back in the day, these miners were not just building this, they were then riding in it. You know, here at Cerro Gordo, they would take it from the bottom back up to town, you know, swaying in these kind of steel buckets. At the salt tram, they would take it to get to work. And this is in the period before airplanes. And so it must have been just an amazing experience to just be swaying thousands of feet above a canyon, you know, and trying to relay that to your friends back home.
Now we're on to the fifth or sixth one, after which it looks like it kind of drops pretty precariously. So we're gonna wander over here. You know, the good thing is sometimes you can use this cable just as kind of a guide in case you start slipping on this shale, because it's pretty steep, pretty slippery. Then you can switch to the upper one. And so we're getting over there. Oh, pretty good fall. But I'm hoping that at the edge here, you get a little better view of what's to come. Make a decision from there. You can also see, as I was mentioning, you know, the sun usually hits the top of the mountains, races across the lake, and starts racing up the mountains. And see, it's already racing up this side of the mountains towards me. And I always love that kind of progression. And so I'd say, you know, within the next little bit, the sun will be to us, which will make it a little bit warmer. At the same time, I'm always looking for ore, you know? These buckets have been swinging with ore. Because the Morning Star was gold and other things, there might be different types of ore. That's pretty. That's probably malachite or chrysocolla, copper ore. We will take a look. So it seems like this is one of the first ones where below us they start to collapse. You can see that below it is what I think is an old insulator, you know, for the old power that they would have been running up there.
Over the last couple of years, I've really learned the value in reminding myself to look around, you know, to take a breath, to take in the scenery, to enjoy the journey along the way. And I think on this tramway hike, you know, it's important to get out there. It's important to put myself in the shoes of the guys that were there. But at the same time, I just wanted to enjoy the beauty that's all around. You know, this tramway is positioned in one of the most beautiful areas I can imagine, with Mount Whitney in the distance and Owens Lake, you know, and the Inyo Mountains directly behind you. And I sometimes wonder if the guys that were building it ever stopped and looked around. You know, if they were just so focused on getting the task done and that they thought then they would celebrate.
All right, so this is the first station that's kind of fully collapsed. It looks like there's a number of collapsed ones from here. Look over here, you see some of the old wheels, and these would have been for, there's this, if you look, this is Leishan and Sons. And Leishan and Sons is the same person that made the Cerro Gordo tramway. So they were a big producer back in the day of these aerial tramways all through the West. And there's a great history here that I'll tell you. You can tell this was made for the bottom wire. This is a narrower wire. So this wire right over here would have sat on that and acted kind of as a guide. There you go. I don't know how long that'll stand up. When these are put in, no helicopters, so just a lot of mules, and a lot of manpower. This is a big moment. Look, you can see right in front of me where the sun hits me. And that means that the sun will just be coming over that any second, and that sun will race up to me. So I love, again, that racing up the mountain of the sun. And we're in it now. I help it out a little bit. Walk over here. Boom. We are in the sun. And there she is. That's cool. I've never walked into it during this time of day. This isn't nearly as steep as, say, the Cerro Gordo tram or the salt tram, but still, look around us. You know, just look around. Where were they bringing the mules in from? How were they building this? How are they getting the materials here? How are they stabilizing it? It's just a feat of modern engineering, you know? This ore that I keep seeing falling down, sidebar, this volcanic-ish rock is not around here, but it does seem to be falling out of the buckets. It seems quite heavy. And a copper, you know, so that's what would have been the green there. And so again, it seems that there's some that has fallen out. And I don't know what it is about me and hiking, or specifically hiking tramways, but the last time I hiked the Cerro Gordo tramway, which was longer, my boots gave out. And those are some cheap boots off Amazon, but these boots are nice. And look at this. done. So that's boot pair number 2 taken by Tramways, but I'd make the trade all day because when you see stuff like this, I mean, look at that. Whew. Even if there's not a single object to look at along this hike, these views are just stunning. So around here, there's some old pieces of insulators too from the electrical. Oh, look at that. Haha. That's fun. I think anything like that just like humanizes history, you know, it makes me think of who was the guy using this in its heyday, why, what was his dreams and ambitions. Leave that bad boy right there. Up ahead is something interesting. You can see some of the old tramway towers right next to some brand new power poles that have cement footings that are put up by helicopter. I mean, that one's even a metal pole. Imagine putting in this post here when you had mules only. Damn near impossible, really, when you think about it. Down there, this is crazy. Look at these ridges. They're like dinosaur backs, just perfectly down. I'm sure there's a geologist out there that can tell me why these happen, but they look like perfect rows. You see when they're better, like little walls. It's so cool. Now look around. It's just preposterously steep. There's these dinosaur back worth of rocks around. No way you're getting out. How the hell do they get this here? I'm not talking about the power pole. They cheated and used helicopters. But not to take anything away from that. That's also a feat of modern engineering. But this wood, you can hear this stuff. This stuff is like glass. Look at this. Like a dagger. Cut you in half. But I'm talking about this wooden structure. You can't take a second to appreciate that. And that. Look at that. Flower in December in the desert. That's beautiful. Whew. We're here. Again, look up, cliff. Look down, huge cliff. This tramway, how? I wonder if even they had to walk these in without mules, just by on their backs or something, because getting a mule down that seems impossible. Getting a mule down that seems impossible. Now I have the fun excursion of getting down this. Wish I had my leather gloves. I could do a zip line. All right, we're coming up to the Estelle, and the end of this tram wasn't nearly as difficult as Cerro Gordo tram or obviously the Salt tram. It's still just a beautiful reason to get out and hike. And over there, you can see a tailings pile, and that's from the Estelle tunnel. And the Estelle is about halfway down the Cerro Gordo road, and it's dead straight. And the purpose of the Estelle, or the hope, or the dream, was to connect down into the 1150 level of the Union Mine. And that mine, they pushed back miles, and I think they barely didn't connect. But if you were to go into the Estelle, it's dead straight, just forever. All of these people came up and saw more in these hills than we're currently here. I feel like I'm the same, you know? I feel like I'm not going after ore, but there's still a lot of magic in these hills. And I hope to just allow more people to come up here and dream and be inspired, and then maybe come up with their own idea, or maybe not just these mountains, but their life or their dreams of the mountains around here. That's my hope. So this is actually the end. So the buckets that came in on cables from there, you know, got dumped into these chutes, and there could have been trucks underneath to pour the ore into and go out of here. It's really interesting, you know, it's just gotta be like somebody thinking, hey, we have ore up there, we want it down here, we don't want to take it around the road. You know, it's like a cost benefit analysis. But this is looking pretty damn good. somebody, it looks like, cut out underneath to see if there's any ore left in it. No dice. I imagine back in the day there would have been, you know, a gate there that you'd have been able to pull to open the gate. You can still see one there. So the ore would have fed in on the top, dropped in, trucks here, boom, get it out of here. Pretty awesome that it's still standing as well. All right, so it looks like the final elevation down here was at 5820. So yeah, a good couple thousand feet of loss, you know, at least 2,000 feet of loss. It's a nice little hike.
So I thoroughly enjoyed myself. You know, along the way, I just had chuckles as I tried to imagine how they would have built these things back in the day. I mean, there's areas where there's absolutely no roads to get there, and there's on the sides of cliffs. You know, this tramway wasn't a terribly steep one, it wasn't a terribly long one, but still it just gave me a little bit more insight into the Morning Star, which gave me a little bit more insight into Cerro Gordo, which gave me a little more insight to the history here and kind of my place in it. And that's what we're all looking for. You know, we're all looking for our place within history or our place within the world. And I think getting out there, experiencing nature, and just enjoying everything around us goes such a long way in doing that.